This is Ask an Expat with Marcus and Matt from an Expat's Russia, where we answer your questions about what it's like to live, work, and travel in Russia.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode. Today we're going to talk about our experience riding Russian trains. Probably the first question, what is the difference between all of the different classes? They have a number of different classes. You go to buy a ticket. Back in the day when I was there, you had to go and actually talk to someone at the train station to buy a ticket. There were no automated machines, so trying to understand the difference between the classes while also trying to get the ticket on the train you wanted was very, very difficult. But anyway, you have what they've called like sitting room only, which is called сидячее место. That's just like a regular standard train with just rows of seats where you can sit. Then you have what's called плацкарт, which is a big open train car where you have, seats for everyone. And then Marcus, I know there's kind of even nicer seats than that, because the next one up you have coupe, where it's just closed, each group of 4 people. But what's after that? I know you've ridden on the nicer trains.
So you have the coupe, which is the 4 beds, and you can close the door. Then you have your SV. I'm not sure what it stands for actually, but it's just 2 beds.
It's called спальный вагон.
Спальный вагон. Right, sleeping
car
wagon, sleeping compartment.
Right.
So you have just 2 beds to if you're traveling as a couple.
So there's no top bunk.
No top bunks, and then you have TV in there. And then the top is called Lux or Lux, and main difference is actually you have your bottom bunk is probably not quite a queen size. I mean, it's a bigger bed. For example, mom and dad can sleep up top on the bottom, and then there's a normal twin bed up top, and so it's ideal for that. And then in that same compartment, you have your own bathroom and a shower. And that was kind of a fun experience, taking a shower while the train was kind of rocking back and forth. But that's with the SV, the kind of the one right below Lux. That was really nice. I think most Westerners would take the SV and the Lux.
Right. Wow. So here's the thing. I've ridden on the train many, 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 many times in Russia. And almost all of my experience is actually in плацкарт. I have some more experience in coupe with my wife. But a very good friend and I, we took плацкарт and we went from Moscow to Yekaterinburg, and we stopped in all of the different cities. I also, rode to Syktyvkar, where I have a bunch of friends, which is like 30 hours from Moscow. Also, I took плацкарт. Lots of crazy stories in плацкарт, actually, because no matter what happens in плацкарт, there's going to be something going down nearby. And especially as soon as people...
Just so we're clear on the плацкарт, I just want to explain real quick. So imagine the whole train car is so you have the compartments, but none of the doors are on there. And then you have a bottom bunk and a top bunk on the side of the train car. So when you're walking through, you see 4 bunks on the right, and then the 2 bunks on the bottom and top bunks on
right,
parallel to the train. So you're walking by each compartment, you're walking by 6 beds, which everyone has their food, and you get all the smells in there and
all the stinky feet. But I think
it's quite
the worst part of riding in the train in Russia, literally the worst. Well, there's 2 things. First one is people snoring if you're in плацкарт. I mean, the smells, it's not nice, right? But you can get past that. But the snoring always drove me crazy. And then the other thing is that if you're in there at the height of summer or the height of winter, it's going to be very hot in both scenarios. In the winter, it's always hot in the train.
Right.
And in the summer, not all of the trains have air conditioning, so it can be ridiculous. But actually, before we get into kind of some funny stories, we should also talk about the differentiation. There are 2 kind of types of trains. You have, first one is called firmenny trains, which is like company trains or private trains. And then you have all of the other trains. And there's a big difference between them in terms of price and in terms of comfort level. I've found that actually if you take the most expensive company or firmenny train, in Platzkart, it's going to be better overall than the worst train in Coupe or SV in terms of comfort.
Yes, because the company trains, they're newer. A lot of them are just one, like between two cities. So it goes from one city to the other, and then it's cleaned and serviced, and then it goes back. Whereas the state trains, they can be like from Moscow to Vladivostok, and it's the same train. Like if you're stuck in that compartment and you sleep several nights with the same people, or you can have even people coming on and off at different stations, different cities. So that's kind of
well. So here's the thing: my wife lives in Glazov, which is in the middle of nowhere, but it is along the Trans-Siberian route. So going from Moscow to Glazov was always a relatively pleasant experience. But if we didn't take the family train back, the company train, you got on the train that had been already going for 6.5 days before it gets to Glazov for the last 15 hours to Moscow. So I know all too well what that's like.
And just so we're clear also, so people who haven't experienced Russian trains, we're talking about these long distance trains where you sleep at least one night. So for example, Moscow to St. Petersburg is an overnight train, unless of course you take the Sapsan or the Nevsky Express, which is a 4-hour fast train. There's
also day trains like the Moscow to Murmansk.
Yeah,
you can get on that and you can ride all day in the
to where?
Moscow to Murmansk to go to St. Petersburg. There's all kinds of trains that go.
Yes, but I mean
during the day.
But you mean you'd stay overnight from Moscow, for example. You'd stay overnight, maybe even if a good portion of it was the day trip, you'd still to Murmansk.
No, I know, but I'm saying like if you get on the train going from Moscow to Murmansk, but you're getting off in St. Petersburg, I'm saying you can get on at 7 a.m. in Moscow and waste the whole day on the train.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Right, because they have the trains that are going between Murmansk and Anapa, for example. And people can hop on and hop off, of course, right? But those long trains, you still get those, most of the time, those unpleasant situations where, because a lot of Russians will bring their food for several days, and it's like boiled eggs, canned meat, and
things are very, very strong
definitely
smell.
interesting.
One of the other issues I think that you encounter, I'd be interested actually to hear your experience with this, Marcus, because we've never talked about it. I know you don't drink. Many of the funniest stories that I have on Russian trains started because somebody in the compartment had brought alcohol on the train. Interesting to mention that the first time I was in Russia in 2009, and I think when I first moved there in 2013, it was also still okay to take alcohol on the train. And there was, I think, a point where you could buy alcohol on the train, but you couldn't bring it on. But in any case, in the very beginning, I had all kinds of crazy stories about, you get on the train, you get in your compartment, and as soon as the train leaves the station, if there's an old guy in your compartment, he whips out a bottle of vodka and puts it on the table immediately, and that's what you're doing. And if they find out you're an American, I'd be interested to hear how you told them no, because I never had any luck.
Right. I can't remember a time that I actually, was in a compartment.
Well, I guess if you didn't take Platzkart,
Platzkart
wouldn't happen.
No, I took Platzkart plenty of times. I just can't remember a time where, most people had alcohol. Sometimes we did chat and they said, do you want some? But I was never in, a compartment with two other guys who are kind of drinking a lot, which is, I think maybe unusual, but
yeah, I mean, I have so many stories, not only from, sitting in the coupe, but I remember the very first time I went to Russia, I was with some other Americans. Two of us went to the restaurant car and sat down. I'm not even kidding. Within 30 seconds, some Russian guy at the next table over says, "Come over here." And then he calls the waiter and he buys a whole bottle of vodka and he's like, we have to drink to meeting each other. And then it just, goes from there.
Right. Because what else are you going to do on the train, right?
Well, I have, when I traveled from Moscow to Yekaterinburg with a very good friend of mine, first train from Moscow to Nizhny Novgorod was it was during the day. So like we left at, I don't know, 2:00, and the train ride takes 6 hours or something, maybe 7 hours. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, as soon as we sat down, there was this old guy named Petrovich. Or at least that's what his friend called him. I don't remember what his first name was, but his friend called him Petrovich the whole time. And he was like probably 80 years old. And he was ready to get drunk the minute the train left the station. And him and his other friend, Mikhail, I literally never forget this. Like, they pulled out all the stinky food you can imagine, and then a bottle of vodka. And then they were like, ooh, we have an American guy and Turkish guy in our compartment. And we were in Platzkart. Because again, we were thinking like, we're just going to take the day train and we're going to get to Nizhny Novgorod. Well, like I said, as soon as we get off, he whips out his pocket knife. He's like slicing up the cheese and the smoked turkey and all this crazy stinky food, and he's throwing the shots back. And he's like, "You need to drink too. You need to drink too." And so you want to be nice in the beginning, so you take one shot, and then it got completely out of hand. Like the two guys are Mikhail and Petrovich are fighting, and then they're telling I have a video of my Turkish friend. They're like arguing with him, saying like, you're gonna drink this shot, and he's like, no, I don't want to drink. And this Petrovich guy, he's like, beat Buyish. And he's like yelling at him. He's like, no. And my Turkish friend's like, I don't want a scandal. He's like, skandal nie нужен. I'll have to send you this video because you'll think it's hilarious.
Куда пошел? Скандал не нужен. What?
I mean, these kinds of experiences happened all the time. Oh, I actually forgot. We were sitting with a Brazilian guy too, like on those vertical ones. So you said, you're walking down the aisle, and on the left you have your, coupe of 4 people, and then right across from you have 2 bunks going this way, and the other, they're like perpendicular.
Right.
Well, on those parallel ones outside of our coupe, but still obviously visible, there was a guy from Brazil. So like he immediately kind of took to us because we were the only people in the whole area he could speak to, right?
Foreigners.
And so then like he was involved in all of this, and it was a total mess. And that's not the only time, but that was like the biggest experience I had with just older Russian men just really being into drinking and wanting us to drink a lot with them.
I was gonna point out real quick that it's funny that Russians typically don't travel by train because they want to or love to or whatever. Because as foreigners, it's interesting to go go to Russia and travel between Moscow and St. Petersburg and go on the overnight train. And I would definitely recommend, if you have the chance, take the Platzkart, because the open compartment type train, because
I talk about the drinking.
You
but
have those.
On the other hand, I also had
where...
tons of great experiences just meeting and talking to people and practicing Russian. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity to really understand Russian culture.
And to Russians, it's so strange that Americans or any foreigners would want to take the train for the experience, because they're like, I'm taking the train because I can't afford to fly. I'm going, from Moscow to Vladivostok, 7-day trip. Why would anybody ever want to do that?
Right.
So, out of my experience, so I went to Moscow, and then I stayed in several cities. In different, I never took the Sidiachi because I know I don't want to sit on that hard bench for 6 or more hours. But I took every other class exactly. The Lux was, it was a great experience. I would say, probably most people don't need to take that because it's the most expensive. But the Spalny Wagon is nice. But the Platzkart is also great if you can get those company trains between individual cities. But my favorite was probably the coupe. That I hated the coupe itself, but my brother and I just spent the whole time pretty much in the restaurant car.
So much fun.
Where we sat there, which is weird because a lot of people didn't go to the restaurant car. We found.
Come on.
It was almost empty with us and maybe a few people.
The food in there is incredibly overpriced. It's not good. And if you go there and you don't order any, I mean, to us, right, spending 400 rubles on a cup of borscht, right? it's expensive, but it's not crazy to us in dollars. So we're willing to do that. But if you go there and you just sit and you don't order anything, I've had this happen. They ask you to leave. But if you go there, you order, a juice or a Coke, and then you order some little bit of food and you can sit there forever. But most Russians, they're like, why am I going to spend, 1,000 rubles, which is a lot to most Russians who are on the train, on, this crappy food and crappy service.
Right.
So I think that's why people aren't usually sitting there.
Well, I don't remember exactly how much it was. I know that it was overpriced by Russian standards, but by Western standards, it was like, okay, I'll gladly pay for this to be out of my coupe for several hours. And we were just sitting there playing cards. Sometimes people would walk up to us and there was another foreigner trying to, I can't remember where he was from, but he was trying to like communicate, and I translated for him. But if you speak Russian, it's really a fun experience because the cook and the what's the lady called, Pravodnitsa, the conductor lady, she was like, what are you guys doing out here, because there's a lot of foreigners who take those trains they see all the time, but they can't communicate. I was just going to
say they take
and so she's like, why is it so intriguing to foreigners to take these trains? So that was my favorite part, in the restaurant car, sitting there playing cards or something.
No, like I said, I only have lots of positive experiences. The older I get, I certainly prefer to spend more for the upgraded class, but I think some of my best experiences in Russia happened either on the train, or the train was sort of facilitating me to some of the best experiences, getting to some of those off the beaten path places in Russia.
Right.
So
anyway, that's about an overview of Russian trains. There's lots more that we could get into. Like I really like the St. Petersburg Moscow fast train as well. But if you ever have the experience to take a train in Russia, take a couple different classes, and you'll get the full experience. And if you've already done so, comment below and tell us your favorite stories from Russian trains.
And let us know if there's something specific you would like us to talk about with regard to Russian trains. We're always looking for ideas and want to talk about what you find most interesting. And we'll see you in the next video.